And we're a little ways away from the equator at Pucara de Rumicucho. So on this hilltop was this fortress. Whether these are wild plants, I don't know. Certainly beautiful. I saw this one earlier, but not as pretty a version as this double. You see new ones popping up. Looking back from whence we came, looks like a restored wall. I always loved flowers and hummingbirds. And of course butterflies. All this of course has been restored, which is fine. Gives us the idea and the charisma of place. Assuming this was the entranceway, and this may have been some kind of a room for guards. I'm just making all this up. I don't know if it's true or not, but we can certainly get a sense of the dimensions. Notice the thickness of the walls. This was a time before, perhaps before, big cannon guns were known. And here we pan across a fairly decent, although not flat, plaza type area. Always with fortresses I've seen, no matter where I've seen them, if there were any land available, flat land available inside the walls or outside, they were used for something. But this was probably a secondary wall. It's too defined not to have been. How many locks can you have on a door? How many outer walls can you have in a fortress? Never enough. Walk around this upper part before we go up to it. Normally that's where the headquarters were. Again, these spaces probably for rooms, for lookouts, and maybe giving angle of fire along the wall. Looking back, you can see how the wall has its indentations and its buildings and structures along this, in between this outer wall and the one we're walking next to. The wall takes a jog just to conform to topography, probably. Probably another entrance into the second wall from the outside. All of this you would be quite capable of deducing for yourself were you here. I'm going to continue along down to the end here, so we'll have seen this far end. This path that I'm walking along may have served the same purpose as those little walkways you see on the interior of most larger forts in Europe, etc. So to give soldiers standing room for firing down over the wall. The little bird that's about here, this would be the male. The female that's sitting next to him. Yeah, there she is. Get closer, but you can begin to see how we're going to have an outstanding view of what looks like the intersection of a couple of valleys, as well as the one we're in. So now we're passing a circular area that might have been a stronghold position, if you will, if anybody got this far over the couple of walls. And down below in this rural part of this community, you can see dirt roads, half-finished cement block buildings, many underway, many just standing moot. Like another entryway, notice there would be an entryway to probably a little tower. This would be the entryway in from that lower wall up through here. And about, let you have a silent impression. It's interesting. My first impression in walking up here was that area there was a huge lake. And it took a while to say, no, that's not a reflection down there. And that's not a reflection across there. But in fact, this valley screams downhill, as you can see, and I'll get down closer for you. Giving us a little hint of how high up Quito is. And I'll pan up and then to the top of the mountains and then expand that. We're looking at some serious altitude here. What's interesting is the sand that's probably either from a quarry or just natural, blowing up on the high winds that are coming up valley. You can see this from quite a distance. The valley, this direction, must have posed enough of a threat to justify this considerable expenditure of energy to protect on these slopes and the other slopes. Get an idea of the view of those that defended this position had. It would seem to me that you would want a relay of scouts at lower elevations who could somehow communicate up here that someone was coming. Go up to the top. I presume much of this would have been filled with some kind of structures for varying purposes to house the troops, particularly in time of stress. Again, looking back the way we have, you can see that deep valley off to our right. There, that circular area. This another somewhat enclosed compound. Right below us, a smaller circle. You can see its line there, plus buildings around it. Climbed up here onto what was the main plaza, for lack of a better term, in this complex, which presumably would have housed the key people. It may have been built as a keep, in other words, the last tower of refuge, although this is much larger than a keep. And of course we're getting a look back across the small town for Mundo to Cusco, going way back there beyond our view. Again, more outline of the walls, and this must have been fairly heavily built up. There we are. In the center over there is the Mitad del Mundo building. You can see right there. Now we're below that main upper plaza. Here would have been another significant structure and or little platform and large structure there, and they probably radiated all the way down this to the very end. Okay, we're on the very end of the fortress where we entered, and here would have been a fairly good size, I assume it was a building. It might have partially been a platform to hold a building. Here we're looking back up